To the class. Good morning, Anchor All-Stars. Welcome to our second Anchor Your Week of 2022. I hope yours is off and rocking. Mine is. Thank you, Jesus. Hola. Today is the 10th of January. If you're joining us after the fact, welcome. Thanks for tuning in. If you're not an Anchor agent and you're joining us, thank you even more. And if there's ever anything we can do for you, if you'd like to connect with us, whether it be to share one of the things that we're teaching on, to find more about us, or, buy or sell property, come on. Welcome to what we do. So this morning is a really fun morning. I'm excited because Hannah is going to be teaching us about work rhythms, organization, and how to keep your stuff together when you're closing 140 transactions a year. Yes, that is correct. 140 transactions. That is phenomenal. Also a massive workload. So I personally am super excited to hear how she does her day, how she structures her time, how she keeps her sanity. So without any further ado, welcome, Hannah. Thanks so much for sharing with us. Please enlighten us with all of your wisdom.
Hi, awesome. I'm happy to be here with you guys. Somehow Elliot's screen ended up pinned, so all I see is like SpongeBob and it's all I can see. It's like making my morning. Thank you, Elliot. So everything that Brian just shared. 2021 was a fabulous year. 2020 was a great year, but 2021 blew it out of the water. And there were definitely some challenges that I had to face with that, a lot of it being boundary related. I had closed, close to 100 transactions the year before, and, only adding 40 to it, you think that's not significant, but like the extra 40 was like very significant. So I think the thing I want to start with is just talking about boundaries. And it was something that I texted Cody summer of 2021. And I was like, is it rude for me to put in my voicemail to like not call me and like put it in my like private remarks on MLS? Is this just rude? And, I think with this job, it's so all encompassing, showing times, hitting you up, the offers are coming in at 11 o'clock at night, you're trying to start your morning and your phone's already ringing at 7. So I think boundaries is just something that is really important. We're so quick to set boundaries in other areas of our life and say, this is off limits. This topic is off limits for me. I'm not available emotionally to have this conversation. I'm not available at this time to do this thing with this person. But, because we are in this line of work that we're in, which is, if you don't pick up the phone, you might miss the deal. It's, sometimes it feels a little like scarcity and, operating in like a scarcity mindset of like, what if I don't take the call and it was the call? What if I don't respond to the email and it was the email? But I had to really work on not operating from a place of like, scarcity and setting up boundaries in my life. So for me, it was saying, I don't start my work day, until 9 a.m. And if you call me after 7, unless I know that you're calling me, you're not getting me. And it's subject to change. There's days that I totally will tap out earlier and say I need a mental health day and my phone's going down at 4, it's going down at 5, or, I have a person I need to spend quality time with and I can't be on my phone and I'm putting the phone away. And at first that was almost debilitating to me. I was terrified of not picking up the phone, not taking the calls. But when I started enriching other areas of my life, I was able to come back to work the next day and not be upset, because I was working at 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night, and I was able to come back at 9 a.m. and be ready. So I think the first thing I would say about this line of work and closing that many transactions was just setting boundaries for myself and, being congruent to them, not just saying these are my boundaries and, walking outside of them. It was, these are my boundaries, period, end of story, no matter what. But another activity we're talking about staying organized. An activity that I like to do, and I encourage you all to do, is to take inventory of your day. To, as corny as it sounds, take a notebook with you, and from the time you wake up and like your feet hit the ground until like your head hits the pillow at night, take a notebook with you, and you're going to write down every single thing you did that day. Everything from, I brushed my teeth, I took the kids to school, I prospected, I listed property on the MLS, I ate lunch, I made lunch. You're going to write down everything, even if it's just nonsense, non-important, like I folded my clothes. You're going to write down everything, and you're going to do this for a week. You're going to do this for a week. So if a TV crew is following you around, what would they see you doing for the week? And at the end of that week, what I want you to do is I want you to go through and look at those things and like rate them on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 is, anybody can do it. I can hire somebody to do it. A toddler could do it. 10 is, this is very specialized. This is very specific. Only I can do it. I need to be handling this. And, the 10s can even be stuff like brushing your teeth. Like you can't hire somebody to brush your teeth. But when you go through and you start looking at things, you say, what can I get rid of? What can I totally get rid of and free up my time to either A, spend more time in my business, or B, spend more time, in hobbies that I actually enjoy. And when I started looking through it, I looked at stuff and I was like, I don't need to be opening or closing my .loop files. I don't. It takes time. It's kind of a pain. I don't need to do it. I don't need to be listing or creating MLS listings. Anybody can create MLS listings. It's not hard. It's plug and play, but it takes so much time. And when you start looking at the stuff that you can get rid of, cleaning your house, I know it's like a luxury, but for me, it was, I'm not going to be the person who scrubs my floor every week. I'm just not. I'm going to get that off my plate. So when you start going through and delegating out tasks to other people, you free up more of your time. And I understand this is a luxury. This isn't a free activity. But, if we want to discuss virtual assistants, please contact me. We can, talk about that. I have a virtual assistant who does do a lot of those tasks that I mentioned, the creating MLS files and closing, opening .loop. It's, $4 or $5 an hour, and it is worth your time. It will save you hours and hours and hours. So I love that activity. I do that every year. I sit down and write out my week, and then I start getting rid of things. But I think what really helped me as well was creating a morning ritual. So going back to boundaries and saying, these are the things I do in the morning, no matter what. If anyone on this call hasn't read The Miracle Morning, then, you all need to go read The Miracle Morning, like right now. Stop what you're doing and order it on Amazon. No excuse to not read The Miracle Morning if you're looking for a good morning routine. But the morning routine, I think, also is huge for me, that there was predictability in my life, because with real estate, our days can be so unpredictable that having predictability within my day, even if it was just 2 hours, meant a world of difference to me, because it allowed me to have some stability, because we can feel so unstable. At least I can feel so unstable in this line of work, that having just a couple of hours that are mine and I am totally in control of, allowed me to be a better worker in the day. If we want to talk about a little bit more books, I definitely think everyone on the call, go pick up 7 Levels of Communication as well. I would say for a new agent, great book to read, or if you're trying to learn how to talk to people better, 7 Levels of Communication. So there's a lot of things that I did in the last year that made 140 transactions easier. And it was just, one was going to therapy. I know that might be at the risk of oversharing. But again, it's a luxury. I'm totally aware, but, having a place to decompress in a healthy way with like the kind of work we do, and you deal with people all the time, it's like super healthy. But I really think that boils down to just taking inventory of your business and your personal life. That was really what it came down to for me, was just taking inventory of it and saying, what is my intention of being in real estate? Am I in real estate just as an activity that's lucrative and it puts money in my pocket and pays my bills and, takes care of my dog? Like, is this all it is? Is this what I'm going to do indefinitely? Or am I really operating and serving clients and serving the community with a servant's heart? And it was a difficult question to ask, because for a while it was just totally, this is paying my bills and I'm making great money. And, I'm 26 and, this is great. But when I changed my perspective on the business as not just being this lucrative money machine and saying, I really care. Like I care about what happens to my sellers, what happens to my buyers. Like I genuinely care about them. It made taking 60 calls a day worth it. Because I really wanted to talk to these people and serve them at a higher level. So I think my question becomes is like, what is your intention of being in this business? I think with everyone being on the call, and if you've chosen to come into this call this morning, I think that it says that, your heart's probably in the right place, that you're showing up and you're here. But I don't know. I just look at it as like doing a bunch of laundry. Like my job is, if you have a bunch of laundry, you can't just stare at the pile of work and expect it to get done. You just do it. And I know that's not a great answer of how to organize your life or how to, overcome difficult weeks, but I think it just a nose to the grindstone. No matter what, I'm going to do it, because if I don't do it, who is? And I don't know. I know it's not very helpful. It's only been 15 minutes, but I spent 2021 really just figuring out how I felt about the business. And like when I realized that I felt really passionately about it, it became less of a workload and more of like, this is fun. I'm having a good time. I don't know if that's helpful, but I'm like open to questions, or if we want to talk about books, but I don't know, delegating and intentions are the things that got me through 2021.
Hannah, take us through like systematically, or like the systems you use to kind of keep yourself on track and keep from getting into like that mental Rolodex of, did I do this? Did I do this? Did I do this?
Yeah, if it's not in my Google Calendar, it's not happening. Like it could be my funeral. And if it's not in my Google Calendar, it's just, I'm not going to be there. So for me, I literally put everything in the calendar. Everything is time blocked. Everything from, I'm waking up, I'm eating breakfast, I'm reading a book, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm going to dinner with a friend, it's so-and-so's birthday. It is all in my calendar. And not to say that is a rigid, hard stop. Certainly there's days where I look at the calendar and I'm like, that really doesn't work today. Going to the gym today at 1 doesn't work today. We're gonna eliminate that. But if you don't have it in your calendar, you cannot expect yourself to remember, especially when you get busy. Okay, you have 1, 2, 3 listings, you're working with a couple of buyers, even then, you're counting on yourself. But to have a constant reminder in your phone popping up saying, call Sam back at 4 p.m., you're hopefully not going to forget to call back Sam. Google Calendar has been great. I don't know if you guys are working out of like a CRM. If you are working out of a CRM and you're doing any sort of like lead management out of the CRM, if there's an ability in your CRM to assign yourself tasks, then great. I also work out of just like if you have an iPhone, your Apple iPhone notes, and it is very, very fulfilling to be able to make a list of stuff. It's almost like a grocery list of stuff you need to do that day and like checking it off. A couple of years ago, if you're like starting new and that sounds all very overwhelming to you, or technology just isn't your thing, then I would just say pen and paper, pen and paper, notebook, January 10th. Here's the stuff I need to do today. And it can be 3 things, just to start yourself off and say, I'm going to hold myself accountable for 3 things today. I'm going to accomplish 3 goals, 3 tasks today. If, the idea of time blocking your day to an extreme is stressful, then start small. You don't, finish a steak in 1 bite, little bites, and just write it out. Say January 10th and 3 goals. What are your 3 accomplishments? If you do these 3 things today, then you had a good day. Today was productive. So creating your own fulfillment in the business, even when you're not that busy, because sometimes it's easy to sit on your hands and be like, I don't have listings. I don't have buyers. I'm just kind of hanging out. And like, it's not really making for a fulfilling day. And it's not really making for anything that's going to push you forward or drive you forward. So being able to check off things on a list, I think it does like some sort of endorphin. At least for me, it does. Hope that answers your question, Brian.
It does. Else has maybe something they want to kind of step into Hannah's world and get an idea of like, hey, how do you do this, or give me your approach on this.
And piggybacking I work with investors. This is like, investment only. So I can maybe shed light on retail, but my forte is going to be investment. It's going to be turn and burn, difficult conversations, numbers. So just keeping all that in mind.
Hannah, one comment that I wanted to touch on that you had mentioned was the ability to free up your time. And I think so many of us get trapped in this mindset and mentality that, like you had talked about, that lack or poverty, or you're not going to have any other clients after this one. But instead of you running from that and being fearful and kind of pulling back and not expanding your business, you realized that you could spend a little bit of money to take tasks off of your table, off of your plate. And then that in turn gives you more freedom for your personal time, but it also gives you more freedom to go out and make more money. And so I think that is a pivotal moment that when we come to in our business and in our mindsets, when we realize I can make more money, I can't make more time. And to be functioning at 140 transactions, Hannah could not do that if she was not investing in her business by hiring other people for less money to free her up. Does that make sense? Because
it does. It does.
Yeah, you have to. You get to that point, and each of you will get to that point in your business at some point or another, right? It may be today. You may be in a position where you had a really great year in 2021 and you want to take it to the next level. You want to double your business or double your income or double your family served. You're not going to be able to do it the way that you did it that year. And that's one of the things that Hannah did. She closed 100 in 2020, but she almost 50% increased her sales in 2021. And she did that by implementing those systems. So I think that's huge to touch on and not to skip over. And when you want to go to that next level, you're going to have to free up yourself and your time so you can be more productive with your clients.
Yep. And it makes space in your life, because if you're closing and opening dot loops and creating your listings, then you're not going to be attentive to the phone when it's ringing, because you're like, I'm in the middle of something, I'm grinding, I'm doing my thing. You miss the call. You try to call back and then the person, threw their phone into outer space. So, again, it's a luxury item. But I don't have children, like in context, I don't have kids, like I'm not like married. So my free time is very different from somebody who's like partnered, married, doing the whole, white picket fence thing. But, I would imagine if I were in the opposite position, having a parent who worked a lot. My mom worked a ton and I didn't see her a lot. But I look at that and I say, like, what is $20? Like, what's even $100 in the light of being able to spend time with like your children, to like show up to the piano recital and like be fully present, because you're not concerned about, God, I need to go home. I need to make that MLS listing. And like Cody needs me to close that dot loop file. And I didn't put the lockbox on that house. And I didn't call the photographer to get my photos set up. It's like, what is $100 in like light of your mental health? And, I don't want to make this a mental health call, but I'm like a super huge advocate for mental health. And I think that with this line of business, we spend all day giving to other people, all day long. All day long, it's about everybody else. And it's not about Cody. It's not about Elliot. It's not about Jesse. It's not about anybody else except everybody else. It's like how I feel about anything does not matter in the transaction. What matters is what's legal. What matters is what's written. What matters is what's in the contract. So, $100, $200, let's just even say over the course of a year, you spend $500, $750 on a VA who does stuff for you, whatever that looks like. I don't think you can quantify a number and say like my mental health and like my ability to pour into my family and to the people that I really love is quantifiable. You can't say $1,000 is more important than being present in your day-to-day activities with people that you love. Elliot, you're still like the pin. So the dog is under the seat now too. But it's that. And again, I know that it's a luxury, but I would say when you get into busy season and you're running more than 3, 4, 5 transactions a year, or even a month, let's just say a month, it becomes worth it. If you really think about it, what percentage of your commission that would really take. I mean, we're talking about pennies on the dollar out of your commission, but such a huge burden taken off your back, because listing the property is the easiest part, clicking publish is the easiest part. It's all the other stuff that we have to do to get there and then close the file that's difficult. So if you can get just a tiny bit of it off of your plate, then fabulous. So yeah, I'm a big proponent of like taking care of yourself in this business, because nobody else is going to take care of you. Like maybe if you have a spouse, right? Like maybe they'll take care of you, but nobody in this business is going to take care of you. Like they just won't. So if you don't take care of yourself and in some ways aren't doing things that serve you at a high level, then you are going to burn out. You are in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, you will leave this career path because you will be too burned out and like you haven't done a single thing for yourself in half a decade. Again, I'm young. I'm saying this from like a very young perspective, but it's just what I've experienced already of how do you beat burnout. And I think beating burnout is delegating things that don't matter and taking care of yourself. So, you cannot serve your clients at a high level if you aren't serving yourself. If you aren't taking care of yourself, and your mental health, then if you're an unpleasant jerk to somebody that calls you because you had a bad day, well, you might have just ruined it for your client, the one buyer who was going to come buy your client's house. So delegate and take care of yourself. I'll say like, I talked about the 9 to 7 is like my parameters. Like I totally check out early sometimes, like on bad days where I'm like, I'm out. Like it's 3, I'm out. You can't reach me. Like, unless it's a major fire, you can't reach me.
Yeah, it's good. And all of us know that, our success is built on the foundation that we build. If you have a rocky, uneven, unestablished foundation, you'll find a limit, guaranteed. And that limit's going to be a lot lower than somebody who's done these things that Hannah has said, that you've set boundaries, you have systems, you don't get stuck in the minutia. When it gets crazy, you have a way to alleviate yourself of the stress, because we also all know if you're so busy working on getting something from contract to close, that time you're not prospecting. And we all know that you have to be 90 days ahead. What we do today is going to pay 90 days from now. What you don't do today is going to cost you 90 days from now. So if you're doing all these things that Hannah's figured out, like, hey, I don't need to do this. Instead, you're doing the things that are going to pay you 90 days from now, just on a cost basis. You have to do it. So this is incredible information, Hannah. Thank you so much. And as somebody who's been on both sides of it, from doing these things as like a single person, well, I was married, but I didn't have kids, and then COVID, and I had a kid in the middle of COVID, and then now I have a kid and my wife works. So it's like, I have to redo my foundation like constantly. Like I'm constantly refining because I do not have it down. And then it changes. And then you got to get it down again. And then like something changes and then you got to get it down again. So being super proactive about having these things in place, having your personal stuff taken care of, and you having channels to deal with things so they don't get just lumped on you and the pressure doesn't get to you. That's what's going to make you successful and happy in the future. So
yeah, I look at it like the 3 pillars of life, and for me, what I figured is like the 3 pillars of life are like health, wealth, and relationships. And when one crumbles, like it's like this little 3-pronged thing that's like holding each other up, and like they can't stay up without each other. So like if you aren't healthy, then you can't work and build wealth. It's like if, your wife decides to divorce you tomorrow, like you're probably going to need some time to sit and like, take care of that. It's like if you lose your job, then you may not want to, be a great partner because you're like reeling on how to be a provider. So if you aren't constantly feeding into these 3 pillars of your life and you're not watering multiple gardens of your life, you will wake up one day and you'll be like, wow, I'm really wealthy, but I'm miserable and nobody likes me. And my wife doesn't like me, or my kids don't like me, or whatever the case may be. So if we can take some time to develop ourselves outside of just who we are in business, it's huge, because there is no compartmentalization here. We can compartmentalize for a while and we can be awesome agents and awesome business people, but, there's only a while that you can only be awesome at one thing. At some point, if you're being a not very great spouse, right? Like that energy is eventually going to creep into your business. It's eventually going to creep into how you're treating your clients. And if you don't, take care of yourself personally, that's eventually going to come out in how you treat other people. So I love the idea of health, wealth, and relationships. And admittedly, I definitely was not very good at, the 3-pronged rule for parts of my career. But in those parts of my career, I've noticed I'm infinitely, more, I guess, short with people. I become a little bit more arrogant and like just not generally enjoyable to be around when I'm not, doing the other things, to take care of Hannah.
All right. Does anybody have any last questions they would like to ask Hannah about, get her perspective, or something you want to learn as it relates to what we've talked about today? All right. Well, Hannah, thanks again for taking your time to share with us a little bit about how you do what you do. If some of these things kind of hit a nerve with you, or there's things that you kind of want to approach, reach out to somebody. I know myself and Cody are always around and available to help you kind of refine these things and set up a plan to move forward and get yourself into the best position possible. So if there's something that we can do for you, and really the fellowship of Anchor agents as a family, reach out to somebody and find somebody that does something better than you and see if they can help you learn, because we're here to succeed together. So thank you again, Hannah. Thank you for tuning in if you are here live, as well as if you're watching later. And we will see you next time for Anchor Your Week.
Bye, guys.